Welcome to the Cell Guru show, and this is a great show. I mean, as you can see, the location is a little different, but the show, as always, is absolutely fantastic. So what all do I have for you today? Lots and lots of things. First of all, the OnePlus 9R, the much awaited economy version of the OnePlus series. So in terms of aesthetics, in terms of overall looks, in terms of everything else, the design language and the overall look is very much OnePlus 9. But this is more economical, more budget friendly. So should you be buying this? What are the main advantages of this versus all the others? I'll take you through all of that. Then we'll move on to something that you did not expect, and that is Sony Xperia about to come up with 3 new phones. Yes, Sony and its Xperia line still exists. I thought they were gone. I thought like LG, they were gone. They just didn't announce it. But they're back and the 3 phones look pretty good. Then we'll move on to something very interesting that is going to take your smartphone, your camera phone photography to a whole new level. And that is something called the CV-ISP. I'll explain it. You're going to love it. And last but not the least, in fact, one of the most important things, I'm going to make sure that your phone actually gives you the battery life that the brands actually promise. Let's get started with today's Cell Guru show. Let's get started with today's top story. This is the OnePlus 9R, much awaited. A lot of people have been really waiting for it because, like I said, the design language, the overall phone is pretty much OnePlus 9. Anything that you're looking for in the OnePlus 9 series, it's there. It's got a really good screen, 6.55-inch FHD AMOLED screen, 120 Hz refresh rate. Design language, like I said, OnePlus 9 lineup, Snapdragon 870, priced at under 40,000, quad camera, and of course the best part of it is that this could actually be a phone that you could look for if you want great power, because the 870 from Snapdragon is absolutely great. A gaming phone at under 40,000 rupees, good looking because it's got all the OnePlus aesthetics that have really made the OnePlus 9, the rest of the series, look very good. So I'm really thinking, I mean, could this really be a major replacement for anything that you were thinking of under 40,000 rupees? Because at one time OnePlus used to really play there. Now, of course, they've taken their other phones to a different price bracket. But frankly speaking, I really, really like the phone. Let's take a look at our review.
Like most brands, OnePlus has a tick-tock release cycle of phones. But as the brand makes moves towards the premium segment with the OnePlus 9 Pro, it also doesn't want to alienate its core audience, the never-settling performance seekers. In comes the OnePlus 9R, a value-focused smartphone that still claims to offer flagship-grade thrills, but at a much lower price. But the competition is fierce and performance alone isn't enough to make a phone stand out anymore. Let's take a look if the OnePlus 9R is a winner or not. OnePlus is keeping the visual identity of the OnePlus 9R in line with the rest of the 9 series lineup with some concessions. While the camera module looks similar, it gets rid of the chrome rings. There's Gorilla Glass 5 at the back and front. You get all the essentials like the trademark alert slider as well as dual speakers that sound great. The phone looks good, but not at OnePlus 9 Pro levels. OnePlus is using a 6.55-inch Super AMOLED FHD screen with a refresh rate of 120 Hz. This is the same excellent panel as on the OnePlus 8T, and it continues to do a brilliant job. Colors are vibrant but natural looking. A peak brightness of 1100 nits makes the phone easy to view outdoors. Meanwhile, the 120 Hz refresh rate makes the interface look buttery smooth. You just can't go back. Performance? The OnePlus 9R has it in spades. The phone employs a Snapdragon 870 chipset, which isn't really all that new. In fact, it's the same as the Snapdragon 865 Plus from the OnePlus 8T, but in a higher state of tune. You'll get a performance boost in day-to-day use as well as some specific tasks. High-end games run just a bit smoother. You can almost consider the R to be a gaming phone at under 40,000. Oxygen OS is extremely well optimized and it's a joy to use. We did not, however, like the constant nags to join OnePlus services like the Red Cable Club. Cut it out, OnePlus. Keeping the phone going all day is a 4500 mAh battery that proved to be sufficient for a full day of use in our testing. The phone excels at charging with 65 watt support that has it topped up in a jiffy, 40 minutes to be exact. And finally, the cameras. OnePlus has opted to use the same camera setup as on the OnePlus 8T, and this includes a 48MP primary camera, 16MP ultra-wide sensor, 5MP macro and 2MP depth sensor. Photographs in broad daylight are fine. In some scenes, the camera boosts colors just a bit too much, making it look unnatural. Indoors, the images are good, but sometimes an image lacks a little detail and contrast. The ultra-wide sensor takes nicely detailed images, but there is a noticeable white balance shift between the sensors. And finally, the macro camera does the trick with very usable 5MP close-ups. All in all, the 9R basically lives up to what OnePlus was aiming for. A phone that carries forward the OnePlus 9 series legacy of style and design with almost all that you want in a high-performance package. It is an appealing alternative to the other two OnePlus 9 phones, with most of the performance at a significantly lower price. With 5G still quite far away, the 9R is an exciting option for performance and gaming phone seekers with a starting price of 39,999 rupees.
Let's move on to our next story, and this is a very interesting story. So how many of you remember the name Sony Xperia? Look, I'm just joking. Of course, everybody remembers it. But didn't you think it was gone? Didn't you think that that's pretty much it? Like LG, they've just walked away. Now, 3 new phones being launched by them, 3 new Xperia phones, and quite a few great things in it. I mean, 4K displays, Snapdragon 888, very good cameras, some really cool stuff. I mean, Sony seems to be wanting to come back with a big bang. So 3 new phones. Let's take a look at what they're about to do.
Sony has announced its smartphone lineup for 2021, and with 3 exciting phones, we are here for it. The lineup showcases the Sony Xperia 1 Mark III, the Xperia 5 Mark III, and the Xperia 10 Mark III. While the prices for all 3 devices are yet to be revealed, the phones themselves pack a lot of hardware. It will be exciting to see how Sony competes with the heavyweights like Samsung, Xiaomi and Vivo for market share. Starting off with the Xperia 1 Mark III, this is the most premium device of the lot. The phone features a 6.5-inch 4K HDR screen with 120Hz refresh rate. And in true Sony fashion, it has a cinema-wide display with a 21:9 aspect ratio. What makes headlines here is the camera system at the back. Sony has put a 12-megapixel primary sensor, a 12-megapixel secondary sensor that has variable telephoto apertures, and a third 12-megapixel ultra-wide lens, all in partnership with Zeiss Optics. There is a dedicated shutter button on the phone, and Sony aims you will ditch your DSLR and work with the phone instead. Under the hood is the Snapdragon 888. The Xperia 1 Mark III also comes equipped with a 3.5mm headphone jack that has support for premium audio. Next in line is the Xperia 5 Mark III, the middle child of the 2021 lineup. This one ditches the 4K screen for a 6.1-inch Full HD Plus display, but retains the same camera functionality of the Xperia 1 Mark III. The phone is also powered by the Snapdragon 888 and has a 120Hz refresh rate. The last one in line is the Xperia 10 Mark III, a more budget-friendly offering in the 2021 Sony lineup. Gone is the powerful Snapdragon 888. The Xperia 10 Mark III will ship with a Snapdragon 690 chip. The phone also has a smaller footprint with a 6-inch Full HD Plus display. It also trades in the flashy camera sensors for a more subtle triple camera system with a 12-megapixel main lens, an 8-megapixel secondary lens, and a third 8-megapixel sensor for ultra-wides. All 3 phones pack in a 4500 mAh battery, so it will be interesting to see how well the battery does, especially on the highest end Xperia 1 Mark III with its 4K HDR panel as well as the powerful camera system on the back.
And now I'm going to do a little bit of magic, right? The magic is one, what I'm about to show you, and the second is that I'm here, but for this story we'll also go somewhere else. We'll go on to the Qualcomm segment and the Qualcomm studio. Now I'm going to talk to you about something very interesting, a CV-ISP. Now, it may sound complicated, jargony, but it's actually amazing because this is where camera phone photography will take a leap. Literally what you see in the display of your phone is exactly what you're going to get. Let's take a look. Time and time again, we've spoken about how impressive smartphone cameras are becoming nowadays. If there's one area that is seeing constant development in the smartphone market, it's always in the optics section. Look at the kind of phones we are getting now. Companies are pouring in multiple hours of R&D and so many resources into creating a smartphone camera that's better than the rest and best of the best. But what's the ultimate goal here? What's the objective? How good does a smartphone camera really need to be? We've seen cameras change from 1 to 4, sometimes even more now. We've phones that have 108 megapixel lenses that can capture incredible detail, can zoom into a shot like a pro DSLR telephoto lens. Artificial intelligence is also being used in cameras, and AI-based engines are being used to improve color accuracy, depth perception, so much more, right? Employing AI in the camera pipeline has numerous advantages like improved processing, better looking shots. AI also has helped getting more stable shots, improved night photography. But at the end of the day, we're still not satisfied, and we want more and more from the cameras on our phones. The end goal, I think, is to improve camera performance so much that it mimics the human eye. Now, I'm going to give you some very interesting stats out here. Our eye is the ultimate guide for a smartphone camera, or any camera for that matter. The highest resolution of a smartphone camera, well, right now, 108 megapixel, right? And the resolution of the human eye, at least 576 megapixels. That's the calculation that is being done nowadays. So there's still a fair bit to go out here. Now, this is where computer vision image signal processor, or CVISPs, now come in. The idea here is to move image processing innovation from within the image signal processor, just like your eyes, which will ultimately help the overall processing power of the camera itself. With CV-ISP, you can expect much faster image processing, as it will happen in real time in the viewfinder, and you can see it before you even click the shot. What you see is exactly what you get, rather than having to wait for the image to finish processing and then seeing the end result. CV-ISP reduces processing time and allows you to click more pictures of your favorite moment, as you will no longer have to worry about what the post-processed image will look like. In simple words, computer vision ISP means what you see in the camera viewfinder is exactly, like I said, what you get. Having a computer vision ISP means that the plain old ISP processor gets a big boost to overall performance, as well as enabling a number of new use cases. With CV-ISP, things like multi-object tracking comes to the fore, as your phone will be able to track 2, 3, maybe more objects all in real time. CV-ISP also helps with portrait shots, as it helps the phone in determining even more accurately what's the background, what's the foreground, what subject is to be kept in focus. Since many of these use cases can be processed within the ISP hardware, this can also be executed at very low power. This is important, especially when using battery-heavy features like capturing 4K video or shooting at 60 frames per second. Now, in today's episode, we're going to go and find out from Qualcomm how they're executing a computer vision ISP on their processor. We're going to find out how enabling these superior camera techniques on the Snapdragon mobile platform is actually panning out. So let's go and talk to Lakshmi Rayapudi, who is the VP Engineering, Qualcomm India Private Limited. Lakshmi, thank you so much for joining us. My first question is all about Snapdragon. You know, it's been providing a number of innovative camera features year after year. Now we're hearing of a brand new innovation, a game changer called Computer Vision ISP. What does that do exactly?
Hey Rajiv, the CV part of the CV-ISP is all about the camera understanding what it sees. When the camera understands the scene, then it can map the photographer's intent to the same in a much better way. Once the camera gains that awareness, the CV functions will enable any use case that the photographer is conceiving by finding key objects in the scene, tracking points of interest, computing depth information, and understanding motion of the camera and its objects, all of it in real time. Just like the way our eyes view and process the data, feeding information to the brain today, conceptually there is no difference, it's exact same.
Okay, and what use cases are enabled by CV-ISP?
Yeah, Rajiv, the CV-ISP enables any use case requiring depth or motion information from the scene. And to quote some examples off the top of my head, depth processing from stereo cams for bokeh effects, object or face recognition, motion processing for noise reduction in MFNR, motion compensation filtering techniques for MCTF, image stabilization features like EIS or even SHDR, MFHDR for that matter. The other ones are object tracking to track people or points of interest, points in your room when you are wearing VR goggles, enabling 6-stop movement through virtual spaces, de-warping, warping or translating image frames to correct the lens effects. All these are closely tied to CV processing.
So obviously my next question then is about AI. Does the use of CV-ISP now diminish the use case of AI on the devices? Will we now rely less on AI?
Good question, Rajiv. Answer is yes and no. The CV part of the CV-ISP can be viewed as a hardware accelerator of what could also be done in AI. But the idea here is to offload these key camera functions to CV-ISP so that the AI engine can be freed up to perform other innovative tasks our customers and partners wish to implement on the device. And we see this every day as we work very closely with our ISVs and OEMs and ODMs. So what we do typically is that for a given use case, we work together with them on the design to architect the software, splitting the workloads between these two hardware blocks for optimal power and performance gains for any given use case. We do this every day.
And how are AI and CV-ISP being used together in conjugation with each other?
Yeah, Rajiv. To quote some examples, the CV-ISP may be calculating depth and understanding elements in the scene while the AI engine is segmenting them or rendering objects into the virtual space. Or the CV-ISP may very well be providing cues on motion in the scene while the AI engine is performing advanced noise reduction for video or performing low light correction for a snapshot. So really the CV-ISP commonly works in conjunction with the AI engine in all our Snapdragon devices.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
Thanks, Rajiv, for the opportunity to introduce some of our CV-ISP features and how we are enabling millions of users to capture what their naked eye sees. Great talking to you. Thank you.
Let's now talk to Anuj Sharma, the country director for Poco India. Hi Anuj, thank you so much for joining us on the show and many congratulations on the launch of your brand new Poco X3 Pro. What can users look forward to in this new smartphone?
Well, thank you Rajiv and thank you for having us. Now we are very excited about the launch of the Poco X3 Pro. In fact, the Poco X3 Pro, thanks to the Qualcomm Snapdragon 860, becomes the most powerful phone ever launched under 20K in India. But not just that, you also get great overall experience in terms of gaming, multitasking, and of course you get a really good camera.
Anuj, let's talk about the camera experience. So important now for consumers. What is the main difference in the camera on the X3 Pro?
So the Poco X3 Pro uses computer vision ISP or CV-ISP feature that comes on the Qualcomm Snapdragon 860. And this gives you an overall enhanced user experience when it comes to the camera performance. Now with the advanced CV-ISP, you can capture lifelike images straight on your phone. Now the CV-ISP and the advanced AI is automatically able to detect the object that you are trying to shoot. It could be people, pets, buildings, landscape or flowers, etc. And it automatically changes the image parameters to give you the best possible shot every single time. Now, furthermore, during low light conditions, the camera is automatically able to adjust the brightness and contrast to give you that best shot. And this does not come at the expense of loss of colors or even added noise.
Okay, and what about video? Will users be able to see a difference in video experience, videography with the CV-ISP, this new technology?
Absolutely. When it comes to video, here again you can see some amazing video effects thanks to the CV-ISP on the Snapdragon 860. Now, video clones lets you create a twin of yourself when you're shooting on the X3 Pro. Now, dual video lets you fire up cameras on both sides, the rear camera and the selfie camera, so that you're able to share the story from both angles at the same time, thanks to the advanced processing that you see here. Now, the overall motion processing is also smoothened thanks to the CV-ISP features that you see on the X3 Pro.
Thank you so much, Anuj. Great to have you on the show with me today. And to wrap it all up, the most important part of your phone's battery life on a phone, very critical, very important. But somehow, with battery technology changing, you're getting 6,000, 7,000 mAh battery, and you're also getting very fast charging time. There's still some level of dissatisfaction out there because somehow when you buy a phone, you feel you're going to get X amount of hours or days, but somehow you don't get it. So here's where we come in. We're here to help.
How to improve battery life on phones. Despite the ever-increasing battery sizes on the latest smartphones, battery life is an age-old concern. After all, the more powerful phones get, the more you use them. And who doesn't like long battery life? But with great power comes great responsibility, and phones, both Android and iOS, often fail to live up to the task. Here's what you can do to make sure your phone's battery lasts just a bit longer. Dark mode. Now, most modern phones ship with AMOLED displays, and these displays sip a fraction of the power when displaying darker content. Using a dark mode theme drastically reduces power consumption, so head to your phone settings and activate it. You should also opt for darker wallpaper. Now, the second way to do this is brightness. Similar to the theme, high brightness levels can deplete your battery in a jiffy. Not only battery life, but this can also be damaging to your eyes. Use the auto brightness or adaptive brightness feature on your phone for optimal brightness levels and better battery life. The third way is adaptive battery. Now, AI is everywhere, and that includes how your phone manages apps. Less of a problem on iOS. Make sure you head over to the adaptive battery setting on your Android phone and turn it on. It takes a few days, but once the phone learns your usage patterns, you should notice much improved longevity. Now, disable the sensors. This is a very important point. Looking out to eke out the maximum battery life possible, vibration motors can quickly put a dent in battery life while typing. Now, the same goes for constant notifications. Disabling vibrations, putting the phone in silent mode can earn you some precious minutes of battery life when needed. The same goes for radios like Bluetooth, Wi-Fi and NFC. Switch them off when not needed. And the last way, power save mode. Now, practically every phone comes with one built in, and the power save mode can earn you hours in battery life by reducing the speed of the processor and shutting non-essential processes. I wouldn't recommend keeping it on all the time because it can delay notifications, but the feature works very well as a last resort. So there you go. These 5 techniques should help you get the maximum out of your phone and ensure that you've got some charge left over when you need it the most.
That then was the Cell Guru show for this week, but we've got great stuff coming up next week. Do join me, Rajiv Makni, on the show.